Hello, and welcome to part 4 of The Truth About Carbohydrates. I've learned how I can record without you seeing my face at the very beginning, so that might be for better or for worse, depending on the day. All right, so let's get into it. Polysaccharides, and that's what this picture is trying to show you. Polysaccharides are an amazing blessing from this planet, and you should be eating whole foods, plant-based. They are a gift, and we're going to see why. So, polysaccharides, Mr. Potato Head is here to help us. He's giving you that look because he thinks you should be eating more polysaccharides. These are poly means many, and these are big polymers. Polymers mean repeating units, so repeating monosaccharides. And these guys are really big. They're actually anywhere from 100 to 1,000,000 sugar units. We're going to do 4. So that's kind of been our theme. So in the monosaccharides, we had 4. Can anybody name them? Oh, let's see. I have my list in front of me. Jamie, do you remember what the 4 are? Ribose, galactose, fructose, and most important sugar, glucose. These polysaccharides are all glucose, these 4 that we're going to talk about right now. So polysaccharides have no fixed size, and their purpose. Oh, what is Mr. Potato Head's purpose? The purpose of 3 of the 4 is storing sugar. They store glucose. And the purpose of the 4th one is going to be for cell walls and structures, and you'll know that one as soon as we get to it. So let's look at the 4. First one is amylose. So you do want to know that these are each a polysaccharide. And amylose and its close friend, amylopectin, are both known as plant starch. And so you find both of them. The pectin, that is actually what it's amylopectin is the biochemical name. So those of you who do canning, I think it's when you make jellies and stuff, you use pectin, and that is amylopectin. And certain things have more of amylose and certain things have more of amylopectin. And I'm not well versed in that because I think that's too much detail. You just need to recognize they are both a polysaccharide. That is plant starch. Animal starch, what we store glucose as, is glycogen. And the last one is cellulose, which is more commonly referred to as fiber, plant fiber. That is the cell walls and the structures that I mentioned. So this was a class I did with the kids, the amylose versus the cellulose challenge. And so we did a bunch of different labs. I think the Mr. Potato Head, the amylose one, was we just went and bought a whole bunch of cheap white bread, and the kids had to make a tower with it. And so if anybody wants to try and do that and take a picture and send it to me for a bonus point, if you can make a huge tower, you can wad it up, you can cut it into pieces and see how big of a tower you can make. I think they were only allowed a certain number of pieces of bread. And then we did other stuff, and I can't remember all of them, but let's move on. So let's talk about amylose and amylopectin, which is plant starch. And of course, when you think of spaghetti. So my question for you, there's a lovely picture of them. And I'll talk about that picture in a moment. My big question is, what type of linkage do they have? Is it an alpha linkage or a beta linkage? So this is review from our previous slideshow on disaccharides. So which one can you digest? Well, you guys can digest pasta. Now, I am not a gluten fan anymore. My body is not. I love gluten, but my body doesn't do well with it. Gluten is actually a protein, and we will talk about gluten, but I definitely can digest the amylose and amylopectin. And so because I can, it is an alpha linkage. So alpha is the ones that we digest. So alpha 1,4, just like in maltose. So these are alpha 1,4. Both amylose and amylopectin have alpha 1,4. But if you look at this picture, amylopectin, it's called pectin because it has these side branches. And so these are all these little hexagons. If you look at it really closely, they look like a lot of little circles, actually, now that I'm looking closer. But it's called, the side groups or the side linkages are alpha 1,6. So it's an alpha because here this number 1 is coming down and connecting to number 6. Remember, the 6th carbon was this carbon that sticks up above. And so there you go. You shouldn't eat highly processed white bread because it has absolutely no use in your body. You might as well eat a chocolate bar. Or you might as well just spoon in straight sugar like the guy did in that sugar movie. Mr. Potato Head saying, hey, come dance with me. Potatoes are amazing, except when you do what we've done to them. And then you end up with acrylamide. So acrylamide comes from a cross-linking of certain amino acids and the sugar that's found in starch. And so starchy vegetables, especially potatoes and corn, if you heat them at high temperatures, you end up with acrylamide. So frying, so think French fries, potato chips, broiling, and roasting, which means above 375. And you can absolutely still roast at a lower temperature. You do it longer. If you will make some acrylamide always, just don't make as much. The only method where you get absolutely no acrylamide is microwaving. I can't remember now. Boiling does. Boiling, you don't get to a high temperature because of the temperature of the water. Potato chips and French fries are absolutely loaded with acrylamide, as is cigarette smoke. Oh, we're liking French fries to cigarette smoke. I actually read an article, I think 30 years ago, and the doctor said every time you eat French fries, it's just like smoking a pack of cigarettes. That's how much damage it's doing to you. So I don't know what his ratio was, but I have not had a French fry in over 30 years. All right, the World Health Organization and the UN Food, I can't remember, the Food Authority or something, came out with this statement that said levels of acrylamide in food poses a major concern. More research, though, is needed to determine the risk. But they did label it as a probable carcinogen, probable. But we just can't say for sure. And I also remember reading an article over 20 years ago where they had done testing on all the different brands of potato chips and corn chips, and they knew the levels of acrylamide, and they varied. It was this huge variation in the levels, but there was like a protection, and so they weren't allowed to release who was the worst one. And so it's now one of those things that's in that file cabinets, those boxes you see in the movies, and it's on a shelf somewhere until somebody finds it. All right, maybe that will be one of you. So moving on to us, how do we store glucose? Well, we are not potatoes, and so it's not as amylose. And we are also not hummingbirds, and that's why we have to have a way to store glucose. So the hummingbirds, right, they're eating quite a bit. They're beautiful. They're out right now. I have one that comes to my back door every day and eats the little maybells that are blooming that I got from my neighbor. So we store it as glycogen. And this picture is here because we store glucose as glycogen in only 2 types of cells. One is in your muscles and one is in your liver. So your liver is below your rib cage on the right side, and you want to be nice to your liver. And that is a picture of glycogen, and it's huge. This piece in the middle here, the rainbow, the little ribbons, that is a protein that's holding this humongous glycogen. And so glycogen is over 1 million glucose monomers. It's stored only in the liver and muscles. And is it alpha or beta linkages? Why, of course it must be alpha, because why would we store it as something that we could not then break down? So it would not work to store it as beta. It actually has both alpha 1,4 and alpha 1,6 because it's so big. The only way you can get it that size is to have those side linkages. So your muscles are actually very greedy. They store the glucose for themselves for when they need it. They never share. They're hoarders. So your muscles hoard. Yeah. All right. Your liver, on the other hand, is extremely generous. In Chinese medicine, it is a place of kindness and generosity. And it actually, all the blood in your body goes through your liver on the way back to the heart. and the liver is looking at the glucose levels. And when you're asleep at night, you're not eating while you're sleeping, your glucose levels are going to drop, and your liver starts breaking down the glycogen to make sure the glucose levels stay at a nice place. And then when you're eating, the glucose comes in and your liver will store it. And so interestingly, this is interesting something. Your liver in Chinese medicine is given a green color for the wood element, and your heart is given a red color, which makes sense for the fire element. And in Indian Ayurvedic medicine, they talk about the chakras, and they give the heart chakra a green color. And then there's a second heart chakra, which has a pink color. And it just occurred to me the other day when I was meditating, I was like, actually, are they saying the same thing? Because your liver actually is really important for all these things to regulate our blood. All right, so quick review. These are our three starches. The amylose and amylopectin are plant starch. Glycogen is animal starch. And amylopectin and glycogen look similar because they have the alpha-1,6 side branches coming off. All three of them have alpha-1,4. All right, so on to cellulose, the fourth one. And this one, that's a beta linkage because it's pointing up. It's a beta-1,4. Wait a minute, we don't digest beta. So why does your mom tell you to eat your vegetables? Joey, eat your vegetables. And tell all of you. Oh, fun fact. Cellulose is apparently, if we take all the biomatter out there, it's 50% of it. That's a lot. It is, of course, beta-1,4. We do not break it down. It is what gives the structure to all our fruits and vegetables. So think of broccoli, the stalk of the broccoli, or carrots. See those carrots up there? Isn't that beautiful? The rainbow every day. All right. Oh, or you could go chew on some wood, but you would not digest anything in the wood. The thing with the rainbow is there's all these phytonutrients, plant nutrients that help your body stay healthy. And it also has the starches and other things. It's like perfect balance of the food you need. So if we don't digest cellulose, why should you eat your broccoli? That's what this little boy is saying. Why should I eat this? Well, one, you have to chew when you eat cellulose, when you have fiber, unless you're my little dog who just pretty much swallows everything whole. She actually loves broccoli. Everybody in my house loves broccoli. So you have to chew, and chewing helps to release the juices. And I know there's that big deal about the enzyme that's released, and we'll talk about when we get to enzymes. But the big thing is your saliva is like 99% fluid, liquid. And so it helps to coat your esophagus. So when you do start eating, everything can slide down nicely. And chewing also, this is really cool about broccoli. Broccoli is one of the superfoods. It's called a DNA whisperer because it whispers to your DNA, and it tells your DNA how to be perfect and vibrant and beautiful. And so it's a molecule in the broccoli called sulforaphane, but it's not there. It's actually a different molecule, and it has to be broken down to sulforaphane. And when you chew, that chewing action actually helps to break it down to the sulforaphane. When we get to the DNA, I have a slideshow about it, so we'll talk about it more there. Eat broccoli every day. That could be your healthy change if you don't know what to do. All right, it satiates you. And so satiate means it makes you feel full. And the reason for that is going to be in number 4. So 2 and 4 really go together, and I forgot to fix this slide. But number 3 is it decreases your bowel transit time. So we've gone past the stomach and we're now in our intestines. And so decreasing means it actually makes things go through your intestines faster. And that's because it bulks up the stools because you can't digest it. So now your stools have a lot of stuff and you poop more often. So we are considered the most constipated country because of our diet. You are supposed to have at least 2 bowel movements a day, and you can eat a beet and see how long it takes for the red to come through you. It's supposed to be 18 hours, and the average American is apparently 72 hours or longer. On the keto diet's even worse because they're not getting enough fiber. All right, and because it's moving through your intestines faster, It is binding to endotoxins, so toxins that were in other food, and pulling them out. All right, back to the satiation. It slows the gastric emptying, and so that's why you feel satiated. So gastric means stomach, and so it can't be released from your stomach. It stays in your stomach. All the food is in your stomach no longer, and it's being released. You guys can't see me, but I like talk with my hands. I have my hands over my stomach as I'm talking. And it's released slower. And the thing that's really cool is then the fiber makes kind of a coating over the first part of your intestines, and it slows down the absorption then of all of your other calories. So because it slows down this release, it means you're going to actually absorb more of the nutrients, as opposed, and it also slows down the absorption of glucose. And I do realize my background makes it hard to see this, but you get the idea. Fast food has no fiber, and it's called fast food because you digest it fast. It goes through your stomach fast. It's absorbed fast. It overwhelms the liver, and then the liver just stores everything the wrong way. Whereas this slows it down. This is what we're supposed to be eating. It slows down the stomach, but then it speeds up the rest of it. Two more reasons. One is it actually binds to the bile, and bile is made from cholesterol. We're going to talk about that in 2 weeks, and that helps to lower your cholesterol. It's a small decrease, but any decrease can be helpful for people who have issues. Eating fiber would help them immensely. So eating your fruits, your legumes, and a lot of your whole grains and your vegetables. And yeah, there's those guys. And there is one more, and I don't know if it's here, but your microbiome. Your microbiota absolutely feasts on fiber. It wants fiber. And so it might be on a separate slide. That is my favorite picture of the heart. So we had the rainbow heart in the previous page, and that's because it has a pomegranate, which you can't get in season right now. And it has asparagus. Look at the asparagus. And it looks more like what our heart really looks like. But, all right. We could do that as a lab. You guys could each at home like design different beautiful art with fruit and vegetables. All right. So you never ever eat your veggies. What's going to happen? Oh, you're going to have a tummy ache because things are not moving through you. They're all getting stuck. You're constipated. So you have to sit on the toilet a long, long time. And you just feel crummy. You feel yucky. And then because things are not moving through your stomach and you feel kind of blah, you're either going to be angry, you're probably going to be both of these, or you're just going to feel like blah, like you have no energy. And it's all just because things are not moving through you. My mom tells a story about when we were in elementary school and the nurse had her own bathroom. And kids would come in saying, I don't feel good. And she'd say, go sit on the toilet, because it was a private bathroom and kids would go in there for a half hour. And then they'd come out and they'd feel fine because all they had to do was poop. And she knew that. So whereas now they'd give you a whole bunch of medications and send you home or something. All right, we're going to talk about processed food, which is the opposite of real food. And you see it over here in this lower left-hand corner. That's what you should be eating. And I just found this meme and I loved it. So Obi-Wan is covering up these highly processed fries, and I don't even know what they were, telling you they are not the polysaccharides for your body. So what does refined mean? Well, our beautiful princess here is eating highly refined, highly awful food. And it means to be developed or improved so as to be precise or subtle. That's what refined means. And they called it refined food, elegant and cultured in appearance, manner, or taste. I beg to differ. I don't think highly processed food is very refined. But the term comes from millions in the 19th century. Millions. And that was a lot then. Millions died from beriberi. So it's like 10% of the population. And it was a vitamin B deficiency. And so somebody won a Nobel Prize for figuring that out. And then I believe somebody else wins a Nobel Prize for figuring out the cure. So the cause was, what happened in the 19th century was they began polishing rice, meaning making white rice, removing the bran. So anybody want to guess what the cure is? Yeah, the cure? Well, so Joey's guess was, don't polish the rice, just eat brown rice. No, that was not the cure. The cure was, let's make people give back people the bran separate so you can get charged twice. So eat white rice, but then add some rice bran to it. So it is naturally found in the whole grain, not just rice, all of them. So the question is, and that's why I put this as a rainbow, because you should be eating the rainbow. Could an epidemic of heart disease, metabolic syndrome, that's prediabetes, and mental illness have such a simple cure as just eating real food? You don't have to count anything. You don't count anything. You just eat real. You don't worry about it. Keep it real. That's our theme this term. Keep it real. All right. So there's a picture. On the left is the whole grain, and that brown coating is the bran, and then it's refined, and there's no more bran. So 95% of the fiber or more is gone. And we also lose the germ. The germ is what's there to make the seed do what it's supposed to do. So that's where all the minerals and vitamins are. This is what Wonder Bread was. Wonder Bread was, we refined it and then we added back 8 vitamins, 8. Because this is when they figured out what vitamins were, but they didn't realize there's actually like 1 million or 1,000, maybe I'm exaggerating, but we keep finding more and more phytonutrients, plant nutrients. And when you get it in a pill, it doesn't work the same. In nature, they work together synergistically and enhance each other's response. So the average US consumption is, if you only eat oatmeal, 2.5 bowls, 12 grams. Doesn't sound bad, right? Oh, but what's the recommendation? It's actually in the 40s. So that was our average back in 1900 before refining happened. So how much oatmeal did you have to eat? I do it with flax. I use flax. We'll talk about flax eventually, but you can put, the flax has to be ground up. This is in our talk in 2 weeks when we get to the eicosanoids, because that's where the omega-3s are so amazing. Just eat your fruits and vegetables and you'll get lots of fiber. Now, most of you are at home. Be forewarned, as you change your diet, you're not going to be as constipated. You're going to be using the toilet more often. And so I've been told by previous students, you need to give that warning because it really does change your habits. And it eventually becomes where you get changed and you're not going to be grumpy. So some of the issues with refining, by the way, this bagel is highly refined. And so a lot of people don't realize that. They're thinking, oh, cookies or muffins and things like that. Yeah, muffins are also, not my muffins. I just realized the other day I wasn't getting to make you guys muffins every week. I usually do make a different type. They're highly not refined. They're made with love. No sugar. I only use dates. No oils. Talk about oil next week. Anyway, bagels are also highly refined. You guys have lots of time. Start baking your own bread. So refining, because it doesn't have a fiber, it is faster to digest. So it gets dumped out of your stomach faster. And you get this flush of blood sugar, which then gets stored as fat. However, it's faster out of your stomach, but there's no fiber to bulk it up. So it's slower through the intestines. Back like 15, 20 years ago, there was a big study when Atkins was a big fad. Keto diet is reintroducing the Atkins thing. It's just a different name because Atkins got such a bad name. But they did a study up at OHSU, and the average bowel transit time was a week. 7 days this food was in there trying to get through. All right. It ties up the B vitamins. So your Mother Nature packaged everything perfectly for what we needed to digest it. And so if you eat refined, you're not getting all those nutrients you need. And so you start pulling it out of your body. There's more to this because it also changes your microbiota. And your microbiota is what produces your B vitamins that you need. And so you're not getting them from them either. So it's like a double whammy. And this is a big one. It acidifies your blood. So you're still in the normal range of 7.2 to 7.4, but you're down in acidic 7.2. And acidic blood is what cancer lives on. cardiovascular disease. This is heart disease, arthritis, migraines. I talk more about this when we get to proteins, because the biggest causes of acidic blood, the three things: eating animal food, eating processed food, and being stressed. You're going to have acidic blood. Any of those three, all three of them, which is what most people are at right now, not a good thing. And this is a big one. It depresses your immune system. So whether it's straight sugar or highly refined, which is the same thing as sugar. So they gave a teaspoon of sugar to a bunch of medical students, and then they measured their white blood cells, their immune system. And for 2 to 6 hours after they gave them that one teaspoon, not a tablespoon, a teaspoon, their white blood cells were at 40%, less than half. So if you're gonna eat sugar, if you're gonna eat refined, you're not gonna have an immune system. You want your immune system at its optimal all the time. Right now is a great time too. All right, skin and nervous disorders, fourfold increase in adrenaline and cortisol, the stress hormones. This is the aggression hormones, aggressive behavior. I talked about that, where they took the soda machines and the candy machines away for these kids who were put away, and the kids were no longer aggressive towards each other. Right, go figure. Brain dysfunctions, so depression, headache. One of the extra credits is a thing about sugar and the brain, and Dominique sent me, she already did her extra credit because she's so on top of everything, and yeah, was amazed. And then this one, age. So I can't remember if we talked about age. Age is advanced glycation end product. It is in one of your homeworks, and I did write the answer in your answer key. So, and we get to it again, like every week we come back to this. Age is an acronym, and it is sugar cross-linking to proteins, and it happens in our diet if you eat highly processed food and animal protein. Turns out plant protein, it doesn't happen with. And it leads to all the long-term effects that you see in diabetes and all the long-term effects of aging. So wrinkles, scarring of tissues, scarring of the vessels, meaning the blood vessels, which is going to cause heart problems, cataracts, gangrene. Does not sound good. So this is our inferiority complex carbohydrate, which Wonder Bread should be. You know, Wonder Bread you could make into those wads and shoot spitballs at people. Can't shoot spitballs at people right now, but you can make a target if you get bored and see how good you can get at it. All right, this is just something I had in the slides. We looked at this, but Americans consume a lot of sugar. 10% of their income they spend on fast food, and I'm really worried right now because it seems like people are in those drive-thrus even more. Yeah. Processed food, 70% of the typical American's diet, 70%. And it's not just this fast food. Fast food is all processed food. So your chips, your sodas. Yeah, all right. So the whiter the bread, the sooner your, so we talked about all these. We saw the slide before. Cancer lives off sugar. Nothing good on this slide. Pretty much all the issues people have, and immune depression. Let's move on to the next slide. Let's talk about something fun and pleasurable. You need to all be eating mushrooms every day. Doesn't matter what type. In fact, they found those little white button mushrooms in the store. Those are amazing. Mushrooms have been consumed for nutritional and medicinal properties for over 2,000 years. They have an enjoyable flavor, taste, and distinct texture. Now, I will tell you, when Pimba first came here, it's Joey's dad, like 30 years ago, everything had mushrooms because in the Himalayas they have amazing mushrooms, and I got so tired of mushrooms. And then my brother made a comment, and I realized I love mushrooms again. That if you're somebody who's like, I can't handle the texture, because I have a lot of friends who are like, I don't like the texture of it, you just put a little bit in, maybe 2 to start with, and you have to cook them. Mushrooms have to be cooked. They do have a toxin, a really small level of toxin that becomes inactivated when you cook it. But it is amazing for human health, and they especially for your lungs. I call them lung whisperers. They whisper to your lungs and keep your lungs healthy. So just start with 1 or 2 that you put in there when you're doing the onion. Put the mushroom in there, and then the next day add a second one, and you'll work up your taste. Or if you love mushrooms, absolutely. Oh, that's the neighbor. All right. They are loaded with digestible proteins, carbs, fiber, vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and bioactive compounds, which means they have been used medicinally. But again, it doesn't have to be these fancy ones. All mushrooms. Well, not all. You don't want the ones that are poisonous. So they have polysaccharides, which we're going to talk about. Lectins and lactones are actually proteins, terpenoids, that's like the CBDs, and alkaloids. The thing that's really cool, we talked about homopolysaccharides. The polysaccharides I just mentioned that you need to know are made up of only glucose. I don't think I mentioned that. So those 4 polysaccharides that we talked about, the amylose, millipectins, glycogen, and cellulose, they are homopolysaccharides because they are only made up of glucose. These guys are a mix: glucose, mannose, galactose, xylose, ribose, rhamnose, and fucose, and fructose, ribose, glucuronic acid, galacturonic acid, and acetylglucosamine, and acetylgalactosamine, and many more. So cordyceps, which is a big one in Chinese medicine, and it's found in the Himalayas, is a polysaccharide, that's what the PS stands for, of glucose, mannose, and galactose in varying ratios, depending on where you get it. And heteroglycosidic linkages is because the linkages are not all the same. And so I have a picture of it on the next slide. This is actually a very kind gentleman who lives high in the Himalayas, and we went backpacking, and Pimba insisted we would be able to stay with the goat herders. And we had no food with us. He is a goat herder, and he is very safe right now because he is up with his goats. And so we had no food, and we hiked really high up, and he did. He finally showed up with all of his goats, and he let us stay with him. And those were the mushrooms he had picked that day. And so he made us this amazing curry with mushrooms. And so for 4 days we stayed there. He then sent us up to meet the yak herder, and he cooked for us for 2 days. And the one day was really funny because everybody, all the goat and yak herders, started coming to visit, because I think I'm the only white person to have ever been to this invisible spot on this planet. I was walking on the path one day, and I was thinking, I'm probably the only like Caucasian person who will ever walk this path, because it really is in the middle of nowhere, and I won't reveal where it is. And they were always so happy. Their smiles are so beautiful, always smiling. All right. This is a beta linkage, right? Pointing up, and alpha is pointing down. They show these how they really are, which is where the elephant stepped on them, or a cow, or a yak. We should get a yak. They make sound a little bit different from that. All right, he's done. This is a beta linkage because it's pointing up, right? Our flattened hexagon is to the side. It's a beta 1,6, and then these are beta 1,3. So we're coming from the 1 pointing up, and it goes to the 1, 2, 3. So very different from the ones we saw in our starches and stuff. And so that's why it's called heteroglycosidic linkages. So they're different from the ones. That's a picture of Joey, 12-year-old Joey, and the goats when they had come. They were the baby goats, and they just climbed all over us. And that's a picture of Joey and me sleeping in, actually this is where the goats slept. And so the goats slept somewhere else that night. And this is a rock wall. These are rock walls that they build, and what holds the rocks together, that is yak dung, or donkey dung. No, the donkey dung is really rich in nutrients, and that's what they use to fertilize the apple trees, and they have like the best apples ever. So this was yak dung, and it holds it together, and that's what these guys live in. And I have never slept so well in my life, and never ate such an amazing meal. So it's just a reminder, if you do go and pick mushrooms, which is really fun, mushrooms and alcohol, never ever mix them. Everybody who's from other countries knows this, and you will get extremely sick. So Airy Berry, that's Airy Berry Fairy, falling asleep on the mushrooms. She and I had gone with some other friends mushroom picking, and we hadn't seen very well, and we ended up having a few drinks with the mushrooms, and then we both got extremely ill. So don't. And I have heard several other people tell a similar story. So polysaccharides in mushrooms, abundance of diverse bioactivity. Antiviral, antioxidant, antiviral. Doesn't that sound great right now? Any kind, even those little white mushrooms, little white button mushrooms. Antioxidant, anti-tumor, immunomodulatory, means it helps your immune system, anti-inflammatory, anti-nociceptive, I don't know how to say it, but I looked it up since the first time I made this and messed up, and it blocks our perception of pain. Oh, that would sound good. Oh, but we have pills for that, right? Or you could just eat real. Hypoglycemic, hepatoprotective, protects from chronic radiation stress, and it's a lung whisperer. It protects your lungs. And so that's me. After I'd had that experience, I shrunk down, became really small. I'm telling you, hey, these mushrooms are your friends, and you want to be careful. I have had people pick topic. I've never had anybody just do mushrooms. I have had people do the magic mushrooms as their topic, psilocybin, because it does have some really cool research. Remember, when you pick your topic, you want to be able to talk about some research that's been done, but the psychedelic mushrooms, right? Oh, so interestingly, I did this talk last night and I messed up, so I'm redoing it now to post it. And today, I got a video sent to me on YouTube from nutritionalfacts.org, and it was about the importance of eating mushrooms in this pandemic. There were 3 things he said to eat: mushrooms every day, nutritional yeast, and ginger. Not ginger powder, it doesn't do the same thing, but real ginger. So when you're cooking up your mushrooms, add some ginger. All right, and let's do beans. So I didn't used to have mushroom and bean talk, and so I got to put these in. This is what I was doing last week instead of learning how to use Blackboard. It's not going to happen. All right, eat beans every meal. That's not a typo. It's not just every day, it's every meal, which I'm not there yet because I eat apples in the morning for my breakfast. But when I was in Costa Rica, I ate what they gave us for breakfast, and they always had out rice and beans every meal. And so I did there, and I actually felt amazing when I was there. 2007 American Institute of Cancer Research, the most important predictor of survival in older people was how much legumes they ate. And so, yeah, happy soy. It is loaded with protein and fiber. And again, plant protein is actually even better, and the fiber. It's rich in prebiotics. You can take pills, and if you're still eating crap, those pills aren't going to do anything. You need to eat the real food, and they will establish your microbiome. So prebiotics is saying, hey, let's establish gut bacteria 101 with Dr. Joyce Sherpa. I only know a little bit. This is a huge field. So apparently 10 years ago, there was like 10 papers a year published on this, and now there's over 1,000. I think there's probably like 1 million every month now. And Google knows that I'm interested in this, so they keep sending me all the papers and articles. The legumes, this is what your gut wants to eat. And apples, fiber, fruit, and legumes. Your microbiota will then feed you if you give them legumes. And that is because they break down the legumes, and one of the things they release is propionate, which helps to relax your stomach, which actually then slows down the absorption of sugar, which is known as the second meal effect. It was discovered in 1982 and was originally called the legume effect. And so here's your legumes. It was called the lentil effect. And so here's your lentils. I don't like the brown ones. I like these beautiful orange ones, which are the Himalayan ones. And so eating legumes blunts the sugar spike of foods that you consume later. So when you have dessert later, you don't get this huge influx of sugar. It doesn't mean you can have a huge dessert. You can have a really healthy dessert. There are healthy ways to make dessert. And those are kids who are going to live a long and healthy and happy life. Look how happy they are. That's what you need to be. You need to be more playful. So everybody should become more playful in this beautiful time we have at home. It also lowers your blood pressure and cholesterol, and It gets rid of tummy fat, so you have a slimmer waist because of how the microbiome is working. And it regulates blood glucose, and it helps to regulate insulin. And so you're going, no, 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 Dr. Sherpa, beans, good for the heart. The more you eat, the more you're gonna fart. The more you fart, though, the better you feel. So let's eat beans for every meal. Hippocrates said passing gas is necessary, but I'm here to tell you the cause of flatulence is not the beans. It's because you swallowed air. So you were either chewing gum, sucking on sweets, drinking through a straw, eating your beans too fast, or talking while you were eating your beans, or smoking. You shouldn't smoke. You are destroying your lungs. A very dear friend sent me a message and wanted to know if I knew what she could do. She works at Amazon, so blessings to anybody working at Amazon, because people are coming to work and are carrying the virus, and so she's paranoid. And so I told her eat mushrooms, and I sent her that video, and then I said, you gotta stop smoking. None of this is gonna work as long as you keep smoking and destroying your lungs. All right, second cause of flatulence is fermentation in the bowel of undigested sugars, and that is lactose. The number one cause is lactose. The cows, this is for real. This picture's from Argentina that started this, but it's all over now, including in Washington. They got a huge grant. They have little blue backpacks on. And so yes, they're collecting the gas that's coming out of their burps and their farts. And then you can use the gas to heat a house. Go figure. But the world record for farts was a gentleman. It was a gentleman, 70 farts in an hour. And it was after he consumed dairy. And I'm pretty sure if you gave Joey a glass of milk, he could probably break that record. He's forbidden to have milk. All right, so this is not what you're doing in lab 1. You're dyeing eggs, and I've been having so much fun every time somebody sends me pictures of their eggs. And by the way, if you're still like, don't believe me, that once the first week you might feel uncomfortable because your microbiota is just celebrating, and you still don't have a good established microbiota, but usually after about a week, your stomach starts feeling much better and you're so happy. But if you don't believe me, well, you're all isolated. Nobody knows that you fart now, but you can get, these are called shreddies, and they have a charcoal lining, and so it absorbs. So if you're gonna keep drinking milk when we get back together in like a month or two, make sure you wear your shreddies if you're still drinking milk. All right. So G-bombs, I figured I mentioned mushrooms, I should mention this. It is from Dr. Joel Furman, who is in New Jersey. So blessings to everybody in New Jersey that they stay safe, because as I'm taping this, they are considered the epicenter in the whole world. But Dr. Furman, there's his website. He says, doesn't matter how much, you got to eat these guys every day. Greens, beans, onions, and garlic, mushrooms, berries, and seeds. All right. And if you want, just type in broccoli, the DNA whisperer. This was an amazing TED Talk. It's pretty short, it's 12 minutes, but I'll leave that for you to listen to. And I only have 2 more slides. This was just a really cool picture. So this is where we eat mostly fruits and vegetables. It's not actually, these pyramids are all terrible ideas, but the more fruits and vegetables and fibers, they don't show the legumes, there's one little legume there. Peas, by the way, is a legume. Your gut microbiota is happy, and the more crap you eat, it's more unhappy. Oh, look at that, eggs and dairies up there in the unhappy part. So eat a rainbow every day. You want to have your kids be the ones that say, no, thank you. And kids are like that. They love fruits and vegetables. They gravitate towards them. It's really hard to eat the rainbow every day, but this is a reminder. The April extra credit, Healthy Change April. Last term, everyone did it. Last year, everyone did it. I am determined, every one of you. So if you haven't picked something, just start today. Make a healthy change for the month. And down here in purple at the end of the month, you'll write what you did, and you'll write your thoughts. I will tell you this, eat a salad every day, eat 3 pieces of fruit every day, eat legumes, G-bombs every day, the rainbow every day. Some of them are more hard, and a lot of you, after the first 3 days, you're probably going to have to modify. You'll have to think about this because we're not supposed to be going to the stores. So legumes, I think they have them back in stock. They were a thing that was being hoarded. But yeah, you should always have a supply of legumes. All right, and don't forget, Joey's birthday is Saturday. And so you can send an email with your pictures of your eggs and send a happy birthday to Joey. So I did all the work. I still do all the work, although Joey does the dishes. So thank you, Joey. All right. And oh, there, Joey's saying, do it. Make a healthy change in April. And that's after we had all the mushrooms, and he's so excited and happy. All right. I get to stop videotaping, and I don't know. Oh, he's telling me not to. So bye.